We know you need a holistic approach to fitness and health and wellness because if you leave something behind, that's going to drag you back into inactivity and shortcomings with your fitness. And we don't want shortcomings when your health is at stake. So today, I'm going to lay out the 5 pillars for a holistic approach to your fitness and health and wellness that, when put in action, will allow you to build sustainable habits you can maintain for a healthy, happier life. What's good, Simple Achievers? Steve Hicks here, online coach for Simple Success Fitness. And usually when people think about fitness, they just think about workouts. They might think about diet and nutrition, but they're leaving so much behind. And when you leave something behind, it's a burden. It's a dead weight that you have to try to drag and overcome. And eventually, it gets exhausting and people quit. So today I want to lay out the 5 pillars of health and wellness that I coach clients through to make habits that are sustainable and honestly, almost second nature and easy after you practice it. But before I give you what those 5 pillars are and how to implement them, what I'd like you to do, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below so that you don't miss any great content like this in the future. Now, what those 5 pillars are, they're going to be activity, nutrition, sleep, stress management, and support and accountability. Now, usually people touch on base with 1 or 2 of these and leave the rest behind and they get dragged back. And today we're going to go through all 5 of these and how you can implement them to make a healthy lifestyle really sustainable and almost easy. So the first pillar, talking about activity. Activity is going to be broken down into a couple different things. It's going to be the exercise. That's really obvious. Obviously, exercise is part of your activity, but it's also going to be talking about steps and NEAT and non-sedentary activity. Those two are kind of the same, but we'll tease them out for simplicity today. Exercise, when we're exercising, those are the workouts that we plan to do, and there's a multitude of health benefits. I won't get into all of them because we don't have 45 hours to talk about that today, but we know exercise is good for you from your heart, your brain, your lungs, your capillary systems, everything. It just makes you better if you exercise regularly. But when we exercise, we want to think about 2 things. We want to think about our progressions through exercise. How do we continue to challenge ourselves so that we're continually growing and getting better? And then we also want to think about consistency. Are we exercising enough to make a difference? Everybody knows you can't get fit by going to the gym once, right? It's a repeated effort you have to do consistently. So with exercise, we'll look at progressions and consistency. But with activity, we also want to talk about steps and NEAT. You know, with these watches we all have now where people track their steps trying to get 10,000 steps a day. That's just to build a baseline non-sedentary level. And while we talk about non-sedentary levels, we can also talk about non-sedentary activity. Beyond just walking around the block, there are things that get us off our butt throughout the day. Things like chores or errands. If you do gardening or working in the shop in your garage or cleaning the house, things that are active that aren't necessarily workouts, those are non-sedentary activity, and it counts towards that activity pillar. Exercise is not enough for activity. We need non-exercise activity as well. The second pillar, it's really obvious. People talk about this all the time, but it's nutrition. And it's not about dieting. I hate diets. In fact, earlier I gave a video about the 7-word approach to a simpler diet, which never said anything about restricting foods. But what we want to do today is talk about nutrition, not diet-based, but about nutrition and the nutrients that you give your body. And you get this through planned meals, right? And we can judge our meals if they're good, if we're getting sufficient protein, if we're getting enough vegetables, which most people aren't. Get more vegetables, people. And if you're getting enough carbohydrates. I don't think we should blame carbohydrates for things, but we shouldn't over-consume that. So with our meal plan or planned meals, we want to judge it based on those 3 categories. But in addition to the planned meals, there's also BLTs. No, not the sandwich. Although, if you know me personally, I love sandwiches. And BLTs are like this weirdly simple bit of magic that I don't know how someone discovered, but I'm really glad they did. But with nutrition, when we talk about BLTs, we're actually talking about bites, licks, and taste. And I wrote an article. I'll link that article down below in the description box. The BLTs is secretly the greatest wrecking ball to people's diet efforts that unknowingly side rail them and get them off track and ruin all their efforts. So we want to manage BLTs when we're talking about the nutrition pillar. In addition to the BLTs and to what we plan on eating, we also drink stuff, right? So are we drinking enough water throughout the day to keep the body functioning in an optimal level? Are we doing that to repair the body and to move the body forward? And then we also want to talk about drinks as in what caloric beverages are we having? Are we drinking too many calories and growing our waistline? That's part of the pillar of nutrition. And then me personally in my coaching practice, I like talking about nutrient timing. I know there's some recent research that calls into question how valuable nutrient timing is. And physiologically, I would agree that there's probably not giant benefits to nutrient timing in regards to your waistline. But I do believe nutrient timing can be really powerful as a practical practice in managing your hunger. And so I still coach people on nutrient timing to manage their hunger and to improve their habits. The third pillar after activity and nutrition is sleep. We know in a recent survey, 80% of Americans are not satisfied with the quality of their sleep or know that they need better sleep or more sleep, right? So we want to talk about sleep. We want to talk about the time. How much sleep are you getting? Are you regularly getting 7 to 8 hours? We know this can promote a longer lifespan by up to 15% if you sleep for a sufficient amount of time. But time's not the only variable we want to talk about on this pillar. We also want to talk about, the quality of your sleep. Are you tossing and turning? Are you waking up tired and sluggish? Or are you a pretty sound sleeper that wakes up refreshed, ready to take on the day? To ensure that second part, we can also talk about PM routines. What do you do regularly before bed to ease the body into sleep so that it can sleep regularly? And then also talk about things like sleep hygiene. What environment are you sleeping in? Is it the right temperature? Is it the right amount of darkness? Things like this, or the noise levels. Things to improve your sleep hygiene along with the PM routine can dictate the quality, and that might help you with the quantity as well as we make up that sleep pillar. So far, we've had activity, nutrition, and sleep as the first three pillars of a holistic approach to fitness and health and wellness. The fourth one that honestly more trainers need to talk about but are a little afraid to talk about is stress management. Look, I'm not going to hit this super hard today because this weekend I posted a video about the stress management masterclass that laid out a full understanding of stress, identification of stress, and how to overcome that stress. If you haven't seen that, it is a doozy of a video. Do make sure to check out the card up above. I'll also link that down in the description box as well. It is phenomenal. But stress management is huge. We want to talk about how do you perceive your stress? How do you reduce your stress? How do you respond to your stress? And then finally, how generally can you prevent stress and manage overall stress levels? So the fourth pillar that people need, and honestly, if you don't have the stress management pillar, what ends up happening is that people get overwhelmed and they're not able to take care of the other three categories, the other three pillars that we already talked about. So if stress management decays, the rest end up paying the price and decaying as well. People that are overly stressed, that are overwhelmed with their stress, don't engage with exercise that willingly, which means their activity pillar starts to crumble. Or when you're stressed, you emotional eat, which means your nutrition pillar crumbles, right? And if you're looking to overcome emotional eating, I got the tools for you as well. There's another great video right here you can check out in the card. And then finally, after stress, the final pillar, the fifth pillar of health and wellness is support and accountability, right? And there's a couple areas you can be accountable to and that you can find support. The first one, you have to be accountable to yourself, right? And you have to support yourself. But you can also be accountable to a coach, especially an online coach, like, say, Simple Success Fitness, right? And that coach should, if they're doing their job, support you very well, to keep you accountable to your goals, to your health outcomes, and to your daily habits, right? But you can also find support and be accountable to a community, right? With my clients, I put them into a client group so that we can engage together, talk about our experiences together, and know that ultimately you're not alone. You have support. And when we do our monthly challenges in that group, you feel more inspired to do the habits that we challenge you to do because you don't want to let down the group. You don't want to admit to the group. You want to stay accountable to the group and do the habits that the group has agreed to do, right? And I usually coach my clients, look, you have to own the process. So you do also have to be accountable to yourself. One method that I do this with clients is I give them a habit tracker each month where we lay out some habits that I want them to follow, and then they track their actual performance there, and we can quantify whether you're doing your goal habit 80% of the time and then getting a little wiggle room there with the 20%, or are you truthfully closer to 20% and messing up 80% of the time? You have to be accountable to yourself, and that habit tracker allows people to build that accountability. But finally, really what I do as a coach, I thought my job was going to be about being an exercise expert, but the reality is the vast majority of my job is letting people know that there's someone there to support them and to give them accountability. Someone that looks over their shoulder, checks to see that they're doing the things that they promised themselves they would do, and then giving strategies and solutions to people when obstacles come up. Right, I had a client that I noticed wasn't going to the gym as regularly as she wanted to. This was back in 2019 before we had all the COVID madness. But she noticed she wasn't going to the gym, and it was because she moved in with her stepson and now had more babysitting responsibilities and couldn't get away. So she didn't know what to do. So I saw that and I gave her some support, and I gave her home workouts that she could do so that she could do that as a backup plan if she couldn't get away. And she could stay accountable to her goals because she had that online coach. If you need more support and accountability and you think it would be great to get clued in on the client accountability group as well, then I'd encourage you to reach out for online personal training, and I'll put a link to that down in the description box below too. So these 5 pillars, these hold up our holistic fitness and our health and wellness: accountability, stress management, sleep, nutrition, activity. These things will hold us and elevate us to new levels and support us throughout that. And if you're missing one of these, you'll start to teeter, and eventually you'll start to crumble and fall backwards. So it's important that we keep track of all 5 of these pillars, and that we figure out which one is our weak link and we attack that to make that strong and robust, so that overall, when these 5 are running really well for us, we can live a healthier, happier life. Look, if the 5 pillars of health and wellness were valuable to you, make sure to like this video and share it with your friends and family so that we can help support each other and build a stronger foundation for everyone around us, so that we all together can live a healthier, happier life. And make sure to subscribe to Simple Success Fitness to get more great content like this and build that support and accountability so that you can have good activity, so you have good nutrition, so you learn stress management, and you sleep well to be a really holistic and full fitness, health, and wellness. Thank you.